I believe we need more unreasonable people. Actually, I'm hoping that after this talk, 90% of this audience will want to become more of an unreasonable person. And I can see some of you frowning here in the first row, which is understandable because we were raised in the Western culture, and especially us Dutchies, to become reasonable people. Reason gives us better careers, better lives. And I'm now hoping to make you more unreasonable. So what is unreasonable? I have a slide. And we don't need to read this all, but it's irrational, not having the faculty of reason. I got this from the free Wikipedia online, and I found other synonyms like silly, senseless, foolish. So I'm not convincing you to be unreasonable yet, I realize, but the reason I think it's important, I'm going to show you with this next quote by George Bernard Shaw. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. George Bernard Shaw believed that the only way to create progress is to be unreasonable. If we want to move forward in this world, create a just and sustainable society, we need people that are willing to break through the status quo. And I fully support his view. The first men on the moon, the people who thought about that, were deemed totally unreasonable. The first people that wanted to create internet were deemed unreasonable. Most innovation comes from unreasonable people. And personally, on a very small scale, I was called unreasonable when I started War Child. People felt that I was a 24-year-old girl when I started. I had no knowledge of war zones and no knowledge of aid organizations, psychosocial projects, and where would I find the funds? And today, War Child supports 1 million children each year in 13 countries, war-torn countries. So I have found, and thank you. For me, it's obvious that unreasonable dreams can come true and that they can create progress. One of my unreasonable heroes is Muhammad Yunus. Some of you will know him. His very unreasonable idea was that you could provide unsecured loans to the poorest people in the world, namely women, totally contrary to any banking system. It took him 17 years to prove that you could build a business and provide loans to these poor people. But today, his model is copied all over the world, and it's called microfinance. His own social enterprise, Grameen, has already provided $5 billion to 5 million people, helping them to, giving them the chance to free themselves from the poverty trap. That is progress. So I believe there's a strong correlation between unreasonable people and progress, especially if it's combined with entrepreneurship, with social entrepreneurship. And why do we need progress? For me, that's very obvious, but I will touch on it because I think it's important. The last 40 years, we've had growth. We've had huge accumulation of wealth, but we haven't really been able to solve any of the major challenges our world is faced with. And that works. I can just name a few. We're depleting our national resources and raw materials in a totally unprecedented pace. There's 25 million people in Africa that have HIV/AIDS. 1 million of them die every year. We have 1 billion children growing up in poverty. There's 2 billion kids in the world, so that's every second child grows up in poverty. In 80% of the countries, the divide between rich and poor is growing. And Oxfam just published a report where they claimed that the 85 richest people in this world own more wealth than 3.5 billion poorest, which is half of the world's population. Just think about it. And poverty is closer than we think, because in the Netherlands we have 1 million people living below the poverty line. And another 2 million people are lonely, which I personally perceive as a form of poverty. And then there's hundreds of thousands of people that we put outside of our society because they have a disability. And I could go on and on. And I hope you agree with me that this situation is totally unacceptable and also unsustainable. We urgently need to find new solutions to these challenges. And I believe these unreasonable people, these social entrepreneurs, play a key role in creating that change, creating that progress. Because entrepreneurs tend to choose to see opportunities where other people see intangible problems. They choose to swim against the stream, to be unreasonable, to try new business models, to create innovation. There's actually 4 characteristics for a social enterprise that I just want to share with you. The first is every social entrepreneur has a theory of change, something they want to change in this world. Impact is their major driver. Impact is what starts it all. They want to create that change through a viable business model, through a market-based solution, which means they don't want to be dependent on subsidies and grants or on the government. They want to build a market-based solution, which also means that that means they can scale that solution if they make their business grow. And it means the solution is sustainable. And the most ambitious ones want systemic change, want that change to be much bigger than their own enterprise. So let's look at the Netherlands. Do we have social entrepreneurs in the Netherlands? Yes, we do. Quite a few very impressive ones, and I'll tell you about a few of them. I want to start with TEDxUtrecht. TEDxUtrecht is a social enterprise started in 2007 by Bas and Hayo, and they wanted to use mobile technology, SMS messaging, to reach the unreachable people in the outskirts of the world, to bring development, healthcare, education. It was deemed totally unreasonable. First of all, you don't combine mobile phones and healthcare, and secondly, these people in the outskirts of Africa would never be able to access mobile phones. This was 2007. Today, 700 million people in Africa have a mobile phone, which is almost 60% of the continent, and people are expecting that next year it's already going to be 85%. TEDxUtrecht has done 70 projects in 16 countries, also in South America and Asia. And they've already sent 32 million text messages this year, and we're only in April. So what do these text messages do? To give you one example, in Uganda, they made an SMS quiz about HIV/AIDS for prevention, to prevent transmission, and for people to raise awareness. 40% of the people that took the quiz had themselves tested at a local clinic. That is progress. Another unreasonable entrepreneur, who's actually from Utrecht, I thought I have to bring in some Utrecht here, is called Sjoerd van der Made from Specialisteren. His unreasonable idea was he was going to build a business where he only employs autistic people. He believes autistic people have enormous capacity. If you look at what they can do, instead of what we do in the Netherlands, look at what they can't do. There's 26,000 people with a form of autism that are highly skilled that sit at home without jobs. So he built a software testing company, because he knows, he has an autistic son, that people with this form of autism are extremely good in concentration and details and have concrete focus. And he's already proven that his staff, his team, is better in testing software than any other software testers around. This is a successful business, creating huge impact, giving people that were formerly unemployed a chance to be part of our society and build their own lives. So as you can see, these social enterprises are very different than commercial enterprises, different than charities, different than public institutions. They form a thriving new sector, a sector that was continued to grow. And some of them are very ambitious. They really want to change the system. And system change is not just about scale. System change is about changing the hearts and the minds of people. And one of those potential system changers from the Netherlands is Fairphone, by Bas van Abel, who actually also lives in Utrecht. And Fairphone, Bas wanted to change how the phones we're using. It was totally frustrated by the fact that they're filled with raw materials from conflict areas, mined often by children. They're being produced in shady factories in Asia. They're totally customer unfriendly because we can't customize them, we can't even change their batteries anymore, and they end up in e-waste dumps in Africa. So then what do? You can protest against it and be an activist, or you can show that it can be done differently. And that's what they did. They created the first Fairphone, and the system changes in the fact that the consumers are willing to buy this phone. The fact that the consumers, that we're willing to look at a different way that their products are made. Fairphone could potentially be a revolution in the electronics industry. And of course, Bas was deemed very unreasonable when he started this venture. Another movement that you must have all seen is a potential system changer, is the share economy movement. The ventures that are trying to help us to understand we should instead of own things, share things. Create social cohesion instead of more material wealth for ourselves. Think of Snapcar, a car-sharing platform, trying to explain why should we all own our own car if it stands in front of our door 90% of the time doing nothing? Why not share it with our neighbors? Last year, 5,000 people in the Netherlands were willing to share a car. This year, 50,000 people in the Netherlands were willing to share a car. This is a movement that could really, really take off and create a system change. And the interesting thing is that sharing is a very basic principle of all these social entrepreneurs, because they want to share their models, they want to create impact. So it's not about creating the biggest enterprise for themselves, it's about finding as many other enterprises and people as they can to scale that impact, to spread it like a virus. And that's what inspires me so about these entrepreneurs. And I hope it does you. I could tell you many more stories, but there's no time. But the interesting thing is these social entrepreneurs, whether they want to change locally, nationally, or internationally, they're not professors in social impact or all business school graduates. They're people like you and me. They're people that are frustrated at what they see in their direct environment and that want to make a change. So everyone here could be a social entrepreneur or could support creating social enterprises. And that's what I do. I founded Social Enterprises NL and another venture called Social Impact Ventures, both aimed at creating an ecosystem where social enterprises can thrive, where they can grow, where they can create more and more impact. And I'm hoping more people are willing to support that movement, to start. There's a lot of entrepreneurs in this room, I'm quite sure, but there's also investors, teachers, consumers. We all have the power to make a change, because this is also the start of a transformation of capitalism, where success will be measured by the social impact we create. So please, if you go from here tomorrow and you need a software tester, think about calling Specialisteren or Autitalent or one of the ventures that creates impact. And if you consider buying a new car, don't. Go to Snapcar, My Wheels, WeGo, or look at PeerBuy, all these sharing platforms. And if you pass by a shop and look at what you see in front of you, please think of who suffered to create some of these absurdly low prices you see on the products. And choose Tony Chocolonely chocolate. Choose Moïse coffee. Choose the Fairphone. Because I really think everyone here can contribute if we just dare to be a bit more unreasonable. Thanks.